SAP 9. Okay, and the SAP 9 executes, enter. Okay, now these are the documents we have entered. 103 is CO document, and this was okay. Now these are the segments to which it was posted, and these were the cost centers, and we have KE5Z, K5Z, posting period 1, controlling area PAP9, execute. Okay, choose. With company code currency, profit center, cost center. Okay, cost center 103, 2000. Okay, rent account. Fair enough. So we have done this, and these are the reference documents, FI documents, CO documents. Okay. Now, that being said, we'll come to the next part, that is starting with the just a second. Give me a second. Okay. Okay, allocations. Now, since we have done cost center to cost center reposting, now that brings to this subject, this concept called periodic allocations. These are done for planning data at the beginning of the period, and posting date will be the first day of the period. Okay, the planning. Planning means that you will plan certain expenses for rent, salaries, production, overheads, and that will be planned at the start of any period. Okay. Periodic allocations are done for actual data at the end of the period. So actual will be posted at the last day of the period. Following period allocation methods are available in SAP. They can be used for allocating both planned and actual costs and quantities. Okay. Now, allocations are of 4 types: distribution, periodic, assessment, indirect activity allocations. Distribution is used for allocating primary costs. Now, what are primary costs? Coming from finance to controlling module. Periodic reposting is also similar to distribution. Assessment is for allocating primary and both secondary. Now, secondary is within the controlling module. By secondary also means that internal costing, production costs, overheads, these are transferred using cost centers to cost centers and product and from cost centers to production orders and under the supervision of cost elements. Now, what is cost elements? Cost elements nothing but the other terminology for GL accounts in controlling. So in controlling, these are called cost elements. The GLs are called cost elements. Indirect activity allocation is used for allocating activity type like man hours, machine hours, and quantities. In distribution, primary cost elements are used. In periodic reposting, similar distribution cost elements, primary cost elements are used. In assessment, secondary cost elements are used. Now, what are secondary and what are primary? In primary, you can post direct transactions from finance, and those get reflected in controlling. In assessment, the secondary don't get any direct entries from FI side. Okay, and these cost elements are categorized under the assessment category. Okay, so there are categories. For primary cost element category is 01, which is the GL. That very GL becomes a cost element when it has the category 01. And for assessment, we have category 21, 22, or 42. Secondary, in under indirect activity, secondary cost element where the category is changed to internal allocation, these are used. Under distribution, the breakup is at the cost element level is available, that entry by entry. Those entries are molecular details of every entry is available. Again, similar distribution. Under periodic reposting, you can have the breakup of the entries. In assessment, the data is summarized on assessment cost element. Only the summarized, totalized entry will be available. One entry, and it will be available. It will be reflecting in the cost center as one total. In indirect activity, data is summarized on allocation cost elements. Again, similar. There are quite striking similarities between assessment and indirect activity allocation. This is for use for plan and actual, and this is used for only actual. Assessment, plan and actual, indirect activity, plan and actual. Okay. Detailed analysis available at sender and receiver cost center. Okay. Analysis available at receiving cost center only. So sender, what it has sent to the cost center, to the receiving cost center is also available. Periodic reposting, it's only on the receiving side. Okay. Now, under distribution, used if sender cost center is important for cost analysis. Use reposting is periodic reposting is used sender is just a collector, cost collector, just a collector used just to simplify account assignments during FI postings, like common cost center that we saw in the last lecture. Creates more number of line items, uses more memory compared to periodic reposting. Creates less number of line items, uses compared to distribution. Okay. Now, direct activity allocation. Direct activity allocation is used for recording actual quantities of the material of activity types. Now, activity types can be like cutting, packing, burning, whatever, melting, whatever, consumed by the receiving cost object, controlling object. Now, controlling object is cost center. And it can be a production order as well, or a sales order that becomes a production order that is also a receiver. This allocation happens as and when an activity type is consumed. Now, activity, again, as I said, activity is burning, cutting, packing, whatever is the process, is consumed by the receiving controlling object. So this is not a periodic allocation. So this is not a periodic, as and when it happens, as and when the process gets initiated, it will get recorded. KB21N is the T code that will be used for direct activity. So activity direct means that it has direct relationship with the recording and with it happening. So if cutting is happening, it's overhead, it's labor overhead, it's indirect overheads, fixed overheads, variable overheads, all are basically man hours or manual labor overheads. These are all activity that will be used for cutting, packing, and so on. And that will be allocated to the receiving cost object. So in relationship, we have these cost centers, 101, 2, 3, and so on. And we have categories that will be assigned. The categories are assigned in the master data. Assessment, periodic reposting, distribution, periodic reposting, and assessment. Okay. In assessment, cost center cafeteria will be used by the cost centers as it is shown in the following table. Allocation method uses assessment. So assessment uses secondary cost elements. Okay. And if you go back again, so it is used for allocating primary and secondary cost. The cost element category will be assessment. Okay. Allocation method used here will be assessment. SKF. Now, what is SKF? Statistical Key Figure. Now, what is this terminology? Which is the metric, the measurement yard. And that is, since cafeteria will be used by employees, that will be the criteria. So if a number of employees coming from 101, 102, 103, for example, 10 from here, 30 from here, 15 from here, the total will then be distributed to these cost centers. Okay. So cafeteria will actually distribute the cost. It will allocate based on the number of employees using the cafeteria. Cost center cafeteria itself has 5 employees. Okay. So we have a cost center 104. It will collect the cost and distribute it to the allocate these under the assessment cost element using assessment cost element, and both secondary and primary will be cost collected will be used under the assessment criteria. These are number of employees. Periodic reposting, as in it's similar to distribution, but that the detail is available only with the receiving cost center. To simplify FI posting, we use cost collector cost center. We can post costs like rent, electricity charges to cost collector cost center during the period. At period end, we allocate to 3 production cost center using allocation method, periodic reposting. Rent is to be allocated on percentage basis. Percentage, why? Because every cost center will use variable amounts or units of electricity. Electricity is to be charges. Charges is to be allocated based on the units, SKF, which is metric again, electric units. Sender, cost center will be the cost collector. Receiving is this based on the percentages, 50%, 30, as record the units that will be recorded. Distribution. Now, distribution was the first one. Cost center plant admin takes care of 3 production cost centers. Costs like salaries of admin departments, stationary charges, vehicle maintenance, traveling expenses are recorded in the cost center. Which cost center? Plant admin. At period end, we allocate all these costs to 3 production centers using allocation method, distribution. Salaries is to be allocated based on number of employees in the receiver cost centers. Stationary charges, vehicle maintenance, traveling expenses are to be allocated based on percentage basis. So salaries based on number of employees, stationary charges, vehicle maintenance, travel expenses, all will be distributed to these cost centers. Indirect activity allocation. Now, this is a little technical, as in technical means that it needs a little bit of not bypassing, but another route to allocation of cost. Cost center quality control. Now, this is a quality control department. It gives quality check service to 3 production centers. Activity type is testing hours. Now, testing hours means that if, for example, there is a process, cutting process or packing process. So the quality department will test how perfect is the packing. If the packing is perfect, it will be passed. And if it is not perfect, that product will be rejected. So the accepted quantity, for example, in a given time frame, 100 packets were passed, not rejected, passed. Okay, out of 120, 20 were rejected, 100 were passed. The passed products and the time that it consumed for those 100 products will be testing hours that will be counted, is to be allocated to 3 production cost centers. Quantity of test hours is allocated based on number of tested items. Allocated activity type is test hours, and allocation basis is test items. Allocation method uses indirect activity allocation. Okay. So how many tested items? Okay. So that will be counted and posted on real time. Direct activity. Cost center plant maintenance gives maintenance to 3 production cost centers. Activity type maintenance hours is to be allocated to 3 production cost centers. Actual quantity of maintenance hours is recorded in the receiving cost center when the services are consumed. Allocated activity is maintenance hours, and allocation method is direct activity allocation. Okay. Allocation by assessment, which is again secondary and primary costs, going through assessment cost elements using SKF. Now, statistical key figure, that is metric, is used as basis to allocate costs from one cost center to other. If total number of employees in 3 cost centers, 300 cafeteria charges are to be shared between 3 cost centers based on number of employees, receiving cost centers, and the center. Costs recorded in the cost center cafeteria by FI postings. These will be the entries being recorded by cafeteria like salaries and rent, and these are the total costs. And based on this distribution of employees, it will be allocated to these cost centers. Formula that will be used for employees will be number of employees by total number of employees into total amount. Okay, that is cost allocation for cost center 101 will be 75 by 300 employees into 72,000, and this is 18,000 that will be transferred to cost center 101. Allocation of cafeteria charge 3 cost centers will be like this, and this is basically available in detail on both sending side, receiving side, and these amounts will be available. Summary of the transactions will be like this, where this was a secondary cost element, cafeteria charges. Okay. Over here, we have the summary for cafeteria cost center, and it is basically sending 45,000, 27,000, which is 72,000, okay, of rent and salaries under primary secondary cost element. And the transfer is happening from here to the cost centers through cafeteria assessment cost element. Okay. And the balance will be 0. Total allocation will be 72,000. So that's how it actually works. Okay. So this is the concept. Now let me, I guess this will get stuck, so I'll have to re-log in because it was idle for quite some time. Okay. So next part is create a cost center, accounting, controlling, cost center accounting, master data, cost center, visual processing, KS01. Okay. And okay. OKKS, because it is LAP9, our is PAP9. So we will change that through OKKS, PAP9, K01. Now it is PAP9. P 10103 103. Okay. 1004001 2024. Enter. Oh, P1004. Master data. Okay. Cafeteria. Cost center. Cost center category will be allocation cost center 9. Okay. Hierarchy is the area is the same. PAP 9, and we'll save it. We'll keep the profit center blank because this will just act as a cost collector. Okay. Now, next step is KA and K number ranges. PAP 9, change groups. RKS. Statistical key figures. This will be assigned element 2. Which element? The one that we actually created, 0, 9. And if you remember, we actually had, again, okay, I'll show it again. RKIU, actual overhead assessment. This will be assigned to element to group, which is 0, 9. So all cost controlling area documents were generated in our previous lecture using 0, 9 series because we are assigning those transactions over here. Okay. Save, and scroll down over here. We have all the transactions of controlling area using the same numbering range. Okay. That is assigned RKS, statistical key figures, and RKIU, actual overhead. Okay. So now next is KK01. Okay. Employee. Now we are creating statistical key figure, number of employees that will be used for cost centers. Okay. And this will be employee, each statistical key figure, unit of measure, each. So we'll count employees. Okay. It will be fixed value, not total, because total is assigned with variable statistical key figure like electricity units or telephone units. Okay. Fixed value, and we'll save this. Employee is saved. Next is okay. Now what we are doing, 0101 2024. Just a second. Okay. 0101. Okay, receiving cost centers will be P1001, P1002, P1003. Statistical key figure is employee, employee, employee. And the basis will be 75 as we saw in that document. Okay, 25. Now these are the number of employees. So right now we are building that framework for the cost center cafeteria to distribute cost as per this criteria into these cost centers. Okay. Come on. I'll have to re-log in and re-enter these entries again.
सर स्क्रीन गायब होगी.
KB31N. Okay. P101, P102, P103, ENP. $75, $25, $200. Cost center LAP. No, not LAP, does not exist. Okay. OKKS, PAP9, KB31N. P103. Okay, post. So this is the criteria, and it has been posted. This was just recording the criteria. Okay, it has recorded that criteria now. Now we go for the next part, that is FS00 GL account. Okay, over here we'll create PAP9 new account. Three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now this is the cost element that we are going to create. Okay. GL account type, secondary cost. Account group, secondary cost. Okay. And that will be cafeteria. Cafeteria. Control data, cost element category. Now, what is cost element category? That we'll see right now. Opening up the list, assessment. So we have 01. 01 is not shown here, but this is for indirect activity, reporting cost element, assessment, overhead rates, internal settlement. This are commonly used. Assessment, we'll use this. And the other settings, of course, sort key, very sort. Okay. G01 field status groups, control data, sort key is 0001, posting date and save. So it will sort the entries based on posting date. Okay, in ascending or descending order, the assessment cost element is now created. Okay, now comes the next part. SPRO. Controlling area, we go for cost center accounting because cost center is being used here. That will be involved in this process. Okay. Actual postings. Now, actual quantities, actual activity values will be posted at period end. So that is the logic over here. Okay. And we go for assessment. So we have distribution, assessment, indirect, direct activity allocation, and periodic reposting. So every allocation has its own domain, specific domain. Okay. We go for assessment. Okay. And we will first maintain the assessment and then we'll create the assessment. Okay. Create actual assessment. PAP 9 cycle will be PAP 101. Okay. And enter. Assessment of cafeteria charges. It will be iterative. It will be run every month. It will not accumulate. Okay. It will run in cycles every month or every period. So period can be like 15 days or 1 month or 1 week. That is up to you. Attach segment. Now over here in segment, what we will use salary, because we are going to distribute salaries and rent. Okay. One. Okay. Assessment cost element, sender rule, posted amounts, fixed amounts or fixed rates. Now, fixed amounts will be like for rents. Fixed rates, it can be for pay as you go for fixed rates, but this is posted amounts. It will be the salaries can be more or less due to deductions or less number of employees or reduced or increased number of employees. So it will be the posted amounts. Okay. And 100% of it will be shared to the receiving cost centers. Actual value, it will be the actual entries, not planned entries, actual entries coming from cost centers. From FI, cost center, cafeteria, cost center. Okay. Okay. Now, variable portions receiver, because every cost center has different number of employees, so it will be variable, and actual cost or actual statistical key figures that we just entered in the previous step KB31N. So variable portions based on key figures, that was 75, 25, 200. Okay. And sender receiver tab. So what is the sender? P1004, which is cafeteria. Cost element is 400, 500. This is the salary cost element, the primary cost element. And receiver will be cost center group prod, which has P101, 102, 103. Okay. Receiving tracing factor. Now, how would the tracing happen? Based on what? Employee. Okay. Now, next segment, which is attached segment. Next one, which is rent. Rent assessment 1. Posted amounts, receiver rule, variable portions, actual, statistical key figures. Okay. Sender receiver, cost center, P1004. Cost center will be cost element will be 400, 600. Cost center group will be the same product. Okay. And receiving tracing factor based on employees. Okay, and you'll save it. Okay, starting date 01 has been made. So let's stop over here for today.